Praise the Most High Yah. All right, we have been studying Ezekiel, and we were studying the first 47 chapters. And of course, last night we went back into the new moons a little bit. Some new revelations that have been revealed to me, and I shared them with you. We're going to continue in that vein as we're now studying the last chapter of the book of Ezekiel. And I want to review some things that we've been through already, but they are so important that I feel like we need to keep reviewing them. Let us look at Revelation chapter 7. Revelation chapter 7. Actually, let's go back to Revelation chapter 6 in the sixth seal. Revelation chapter 6, the sixth seal. Revelation 6, I'm going to start at verse 12 and read down to verse 17. Revelation chapter 6 from verse 12 to verse 17. Revelation 6, 12 through 17. I beheld, and when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. And every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? This is the sixth of seven seals that we have studied in the book of Revelation that correspond also to seven churches. And they parallel also seven churches, and they also parallel seven seals. And we talked about that. There's seven churches, seven seals, seven trumpets. And they parallel also the seven trumpets. Different events are taking place in each situation. And we're seeing, as we looked at the whole thing as a whole, we saw how and what is developing. Here in the sixth seal, as we saw, it corresponds to the sixth church, which is Philadelphia, which church we are in right now. We know right now we're in that church because we studied it in terms of the 2300-year prophecy of Daniel chapter 8. And then we studied Daniel chapter 9. And we came to the conclusion that in 1843/44, the Most High, through the Messiah, commanded Messiah to go from the holy place to the most holy place in the third heaven of the sanctuary in heaven, indicating that at that time there was going to be a cleansing or an atonement made for the chosen people at that time. There was a delay. See, at this point in 1844, the chosen people, who are the Negroes, were not prepared for the kingdom, coming out of slavery at that time. Not prepared for the kingdom. Okay? In this, Revelation chapter 6, as we see, from verse 12 through 17, it appears to be a description of the return of Messiah and what will take place. The question is asked at the end of this description, who shall be able to stand? Many people don't understand why this question is asked. They don't understand what it means and its great significance. Brothers and sisters, the truth of the matter is we must be prepared to stand before the Father. We must be prepared to stand before Messiah. We have to be spiritually prepared to stand before them. Not everybody can just stand. You see, the redeemed will not be running from the Messiah. They'll be prepared to stand. And the preparation has to do everything with the seal of the Father's Spirit on his chosen people. His chosen people must first receive his Spirit as a seal. The Spirit of the Father is a representation of perfect righteousness, which Messiah in the flesh is a representation of. He's a representation of the Father's perfect righteousness. He's a representation of perfect obedience to the Father's commandments. That's what the Messiah is. Representation of perfect obedience to the Father's commandments. And the perfect obedience to the Father's commandments became a sin offering for you and me. He became a sin offering for you and me. The question was asked, who shall be able to stand? There is a people that the Most High is raising up, even now, that are being prepared to give a final message with a power that has never been seen on the earth since the days of the apostles, has never been seen on the magnitude that is going to be seen. When the apostles came, when you read in the book of Acts, when you read the letters of Acts, you see actually a parallel to what's getting ready to happen now. You see a parallel to what's getting ready to happen now. There needs to be an understanding of the feast, and there needs to be understanding of the meaning of the feast, as we talked about also in the video we did about the feast. How each feast has a meaning in Messiah. Each feast has a meaning in Messiah. For example, Messiah is the Lamb of Yahweh that taketh away the sin of the world. The Lamb that was put to death, the Lamb of the first year without blemish, put to death for the Passover to protect the Israelite people. You guys are very well aware of that, I'm sure, that the Israelites were protected in Egypt by the blood of a lamb that was slain. The lamb had to be the first year without blemish. He had to be roasted in fire, put to death at sunset on the 14th day of the first month. Okay, that represented Messiah himself. Then there was at that time also the second day, which is two phases, two compartments of the same feast. Feast of unleavened bread is the same as the Passover. Many people get this confused out of ignorance, and it's okay. All of our eyes are being opened slowly. Those of us that love the Father and want to bring glory to him and him alone, he will reveal this in truth. But the truth is that the Feast of unleavened bread and the Passover are two parts of the same feast. In the 14th day of the month, Messiah is represented as the lamb, and he was slain on the 14th day of the month. The 14th day of the month in the year 31 AD, he was slain. The 15th day is the beginning of the Feast of unleavened bread. It is a Sabbath, and is followed by 7 days of feast with unleavened bread, representing our fathers that came out of Egypt in haste. They came out at midnight in haste. They killed the lamb that night, the day before, right there at sunset. And then that night at midnight, they were delivered. They were delivered. And the next day at sunrise, it was the 15th day, the sunset and sunrise, the 15th day, they were running out of Egypt. They didn't have time to put leaven in the bread. They didn't have time to bake any bread. They were out. In haste, they were out and they were free. So that the Feast of Unleavened Bread represents freedom and unleavened, freedom from sin. Testing 1, 2, 3. They were set free from sin through the Messiah. Then 7 days later, there was another Sabbath, the 22nd day of the month. After that Sabbath, the 22nd day of the month, the day after that, on the 23rd day of the month, it is the Hebrew month, the 23rd day of the month, the priest would wave an offering of the beginning of the barley harvest. And then they count 7 Sabbaths from there. And since we know it's by the moon phase, this is very easy. You have the 22nd of the month, the 23rd is the first day after the Sabbath. They count 7 Sabbaths. 22nd, then they go 29th, then they go 8th, then they go 15th, 22nd, 29th, 8th, 15th. And on the 16th day, which is the 50th day after the 7th Sabbath, which was on the 15th of the 3rd month, there's the Pentecost. How does that meet Messiah? If you recall, Messiah was raised on the 3rd day. The 3rd day, which was the day after the Sabbath, the day after the 22nd, he was raised on the 23rd of the first month. He was with his disciples, the Bible says, for 40 days. He was with his disciples for 40 days. And then he ascended into the 3rd heaven. And he told his disciples, I will return, and you will be where I am. You will be with me in the kingdom. Yes, he left. And then 10 days later was the 16th day of the 3rd month, when the day of Pentecost was fully come. Pentecost is a representation of the first fruits, the beginning of a harvest, the beginning of what would be a harvest, the first fruits. And they received the early rain. The apostles were sealed with the Father's Spirit in the early rain. That was the beginning. Then 2,300 days later, or 2,300 years, and this is what many people, I wanted to bring out today, many people mistake with prophecy. They don't follow the day-year principle that the Bible outlines in Numbers and in Ezekiel, which we studied. A day for a year in Bible prophecy. 2,300 days, 2,300 evening and mornings, 2,300 years. Later, 1844, 7th month, 15th day, 10th day of the month, Messiah enters into the most holy place to begin his work, his final work. Revelation chapter 7 from verse 1, Revelation chapter 7 from verse 1 down to verse 4, Revelation 7, 1 to 4. And after these things, that is, after he saw the question, who shall be able to stand? I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living Yahweh. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of Yahweh in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Let me stop here. You notice the angel in verse 2. He was ascending. I like to bring this out. Very important. There's a difference, as you know very well, between ascending and descending. Let me say that again. There is a difference between ascending and descending. When you're descending, what are you doing? You're coming down from a great height. Isn't that right? You're coming down. But when you're ascending, you're going up. This angel was ascending from the east. What does that mean? He had a seal in his hand. He had come down to seal the people in 1844. He was prepared. What does that mean? There's many implications to this. It means Father was ready. It means Messiah was ready. It means heaven was ready. All the angels were ready. So he comes down with the seal to put the seal on 144,000 of all the tribes of the nation of Israel. But we were still in chains, 1844. Still in slavery, 1844. So what does he do? He takes the seal back and he ascends back where he came from with the seal. And as he's going back, he says, he calls out to 4 angels who are standing on north, south, east, and west corners of this planet. He calls back and he says, keep holding the winds until I come back and seal the servants. Hold the winds. Don't hurt the earth. Not yet. Which also implies the earth is going to be hurt badly. Which is where we are right now. We revealed a ways back how Messiah announced on AD 27, if you recall, in Luke chapter 4, he announced a jubilee. He announced a jubilee, AD 27. If you didn't know anything in terms of what years the jubilee was, Messiah just gave us a waymark on AD 27 when he made that announcement. It was the same period, the same group of weeks in which he had just come from a 40-day fast, in which he was also baptized, which he also turned 30 years of age. Same group of time. Now, let us take a look very quickly at that jubilee, because we're being prepared, brothers and sisters. We are being prepared for that time. AD 2027. Watch it. We're being prepared for that time. I want you to notice the preparation that the Most High showed us. The book of Leviticus. Let us take a look. Leviticus chapter 23. Leviticus 23. We're being prepared, brothers and sisters. We're being prepared in perfect righteousness. Brothers and sisters, make no mistake. I don't want anybody to get it twisted. We must be sealed in the Father's righteousness to be prepared to meet Messiah. The Father's righteousness is perfect. We cannot make ourselves perfect, but indeed, the seal of Yah will perfect us. Indeed, it will. In order to receive that seal, we must be surrendered. We must be sold out to give glory to the Father. We must have all sin off of us. And he will help with that. In fact, he says he will do it for us if we allow him. Through the same divine righteousness he will put on us, cause us to overcome all our sin. It's all spiritual, brothers and sisters. It's about the Father's Spirit. When I say it, I mean this perfection of salvation is all about the Father's Spirit and all about surrendering our spirit to his. And in surrendering our spirit, we're surrendering our sinful nature. We have a naturally sinful nature. We are a human nature. It's natural human nature which causes us to sin. It's part of us. So what do? We surrender that in fasting and prayer to the Father, and we receive of the divine nature through Messiah. We receive of a divine nature. We're going to talk a lot more about this as we study Romans. We receive of a divine nature. And that's what's called born again. Born again. Leviticus chapter 23. Pay close attention to what I'm about to read, please. Leviticus 23. We're going to begin at verse 23. I want to read verse 23 and verse 24. And verse 25 of Leviticus chapter 23. 23, 24, 25. Notice what it says. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel. Watch this very closely. Please pay attention. What? Saying, in the 7th month, in the 1st day of the month, ye shall have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. This was different than any other new month. Because this one, now every new month, they kept a feast. Every new month was a Sabbath. Every new month, right? The new moon, that's the new month, the new moon, the first day of the month, right? Everybody with me so far? The first day of the month, the new moon. That's what we studied last night, right? But this one was different because it was a holy convocation. But more than that, they made an offering unto Yahweh. Wait, let me ask you this question very quickly, if you don't mind. What did that offering represent? The offering they made there in the first day of the 7th month. What did that offering represent? Talk to me. Talk to me. Family, what did it represent, the offering? The first day of the No. They offered an animal by fire. When they say offering by fire, that's an animal being offered. What did that represent? Let me give you something now. Anytime, listen carefully. Testing 1, 2, 3. Watch now. Anytime you read that there's an offering of an animal, you should always remember Messiah. Anytime you read about an offering of an animal, you must always remember Messiah. Always. Okay? Anytime. Okay? So now, wait. And when you're thinking of Messiah, always remember that it is through Messiah that we obtain what Kimmy just mentioned, righteousness. We obtain perfect righteousness from the Father only through Messiah. So here, in the first day of the 7th month, we always have a Sabbath the first day of the month. Every month, we have a Sabbath, first day of the month, in the Hebrew, in the kingdom of the Yah. But this one was different. This one, they blew them trumpets. They always blow trumpets, but this one in the 7th month, they make an offering by fire. Why? They're preparing for something. They're preparing for something. Isn't that right? Testing 1, 2, 3. They're preparing for something. And they're preparing for something that requires the people being prepared to wear righteousness. It requires them to wear righteousness. They cannot have sin on them. They must be perfectly clean in the spirit. Testing 1, 2, 3. Must be clean in the spirit. Okay? That's the... Wait. Let me just make sure y'all got that. Y'all got it. It was the first day of the 7th month. The first day of the 7th month. The new moon. That's the new moon. The first new moon, that's the new moon of the 7th month. Everybody with me so far? All right? Okay? Right? Good. Okay, let's continue. Watch this. Watch this. From verse 26, same Leviticus chapter 23, from verse 26, verse 27, verse 28, 29, 30. Shoot. Down to 32. All right? From verse 26 down to 32. Notice, watch carefully. I know these are a lot of words. Most High Spirit, please bless us by your grace in the name of Messiah, Yahushua, who came for your glory as we seek your glory. Amen. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you. Ye shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. And ye shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before Yahweh your most high. And whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever soul it be that doth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. Ye shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest. Ye shall afflict your souls. In the 9th day of the month at even, from even unto even, shall ye celebrate your Sabbath. Now I want to explain this to you. I want to make sure you got this. This is the only time, aside from Pentecost, that the people are keeping a Sabbath that's not on the 7th day. Like all the other feasts take place on a Sabbath, like a 7th-day Sabbath. But the Pentecost and this one, these are the only two that where they're keeping a Sabbath that's not on the 7th day. This is the 10th day of the month. The Sabbath be on the 15th day of the month. And it be on the 8th day of the month. So 2 days after the first Sabbath of the 7th month, they're keeping another Sabbath. The 10th day of the 7th month. Day of Atonement. So far, everybody with me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Everybody with me so far? This is the Day of Atonement now. What happens on the Day of Atonement? The reason he said whoever is not afflicted will be destroyed is because it's a representation of putting off all sin, not temporarily, putting off all sin forever and being sealed forever. Everybody got me? It's a symbol of that. And so when you are sealed in the spirit forever, what happens now, the high priest goes into the most holy place of the sanctuary of the Most High, and he atones for all of the sins of the Israelites. I also want you to notice there's no Babylonian involved with this. There's no Englishman, there's no French, there's no German, there's no Russian, there's no African. No, this is only for Israelites and those in the camp. That's it. And they are receiving forgiveness of their sin, and they are being sealed. Got me? In the Day of Atonement. Now, that happens every single year. Now, I want you to notice, we talked about 1844. Because everything has its meaning in Messiah. There's messianic implications, everything. And what happened now? 1844, Messiah went into the most holy place to perform this very work. And he was going to come out after that. But he didn't. He was delayed. Why? Because the 144,000 were not prepared to be sealed. So he's now in a delay period as he's in the most holy place. And when he comes out, though, it's all over. Now, let me show you something. Let's turn to Leviticus Same Leviticus chapter 25. Now, I want to just test you before we do that. Let me just make sure you are where I am on this right now. If you recall now, the 7th month, the first day of the month, is blowing of trumpets, and there's a sacrifice of an animal. The 10th day of the 7th month, that is 9 days later, there's a Day of Atonement. Everybody got me? That's every year, 7th month. Every year. Okay? Everybody got that? Okay? Okay. Now let's look at Leviticus 25. Leviticus 25. Leviticus chapter 25. Let us go in Leviticus 25. We're talking about in Leviticus 25, we're talking about the 7-year rest and the Jubilee. Yes, here it is. Okay. Leviticus 25 from verse 1 down to verse 10, and especially pay attention to verse 9. Leviticus 25 from 1 to 10, especially pay attention to verse 9. Watch this now. Watch this. And Yahweh spake unto Moses in Mount Sinai, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto Yahweh. 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for Yahweh. Thou shalt neither sow thy field nor prune thy vineyard. In that which groweth of its own accord of thy harvest thou shalt not reap, neither gather the grapes of the vine undressed, for it is a year of rest unto the land. And the Sabbath of the land shall be meat for you, for thee, and for thy servant, and for thy maid, and for thy hired servant, and for thy stranger that sojourneth with thee. For thy cattle, and for the beasts that are in thy land, shall all the increase thereof be for me. And thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7 years. And the space of 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years. Watch verse 9 now. Watch this. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound when? On the 10th day of the 7th month, in the Day of Atonement, shall ye make the trumpet to sound throughout all your land. And ye shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man to his possession, and ye shall return every man to his family. Stop. Did you notice it's the 10th day of the 7th month that the jubilee happens on the 50th year? Did you notice that? It's the 10th day of the 7th month in the 50th year. What else happened on the 10th day of the 7th month? If you recall, it was the Day of Atonement. So on the 50th year, on the Day of Atonement, it's a special Day of Atonement. It's a Day of Atonement where there's a jubilee. All debts are forgiven. All sin is forgiven. All land is restored to its rightful owners. Remember that. All land is restored to its rightful owners. Today we're getting ready to get into Ezekiel 48, where they divide the land. All land is restored to its rightful owners. Jubilee. Everybody got me so far? Wait a minute, I'm about to get deeper. I'm just warning y'all. And I'm not saying this to brag. I want you to be with me. I'm glad we're recording this, Most High. Please keep this recorded. Look, listen now. Remember now. In prophecy, a day is equal to what? In prophecy, a day is equal to what? In prophecy. A day is equal to a year. That's right. So, we said, I told you all just a few weeks ago that the next Jubilee is going to be 2027. Didn't I say that? 2027 is the next Jubilee. I told you that the last one was 1977 and the next one is 2027. And I believe it's the last one that we will have. It's, to me, that next one is an announcement that we're about to get our land back. Now, wait a minute. What day, though, in 2027? Well, now we know. It's the 7th month. The 10th day of the month is the next Jubilee. Isn't that correct? The 7th month, 2027, the 10th day of the 7th month. Now, wait a minute. What happened? Let me just quiz you real quick. Before we just read it. Now, we just read this a few minutes ago. Let me see about your retention right now in the spirit, okay? Before the 10th day of the month, what took place? In the same 7th month, before the 10th day of the month, something else took place. Something else took place before that. Something else took place, right? What took place? Something took place before that. On the 10th day of the... Right. Oh, no. The atonement is the 10th day of the month. That's the 10th day. So what took place prior to the atonement? What took place? It took place prior to the atonement in the same month. We just read about it. We read about it in Leviticus 23. What took place? Let's go back. Let's go back. That's right. The trumpets. That's right. Let's go back. Look at it. Leviticus 23 from verse 23 to 25, Leviticus 23 to 25. Notice what took place. This took place before the Day of Atonement, 7th month. Okay. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, watch now, in the 7th month, in the 1st day of the month, right, shall ye have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, a holy convocation. And ye shall do no servile work therein, but shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. Remember that? So, prior to the Jubilee, there is a blowing of trumpets. Prophetically speaking, that should happen 10 years before. 10 years before this last Jubilee. 10 years before, there should be a warning. If you go back 10 years, you know where you go? September 23rd, 2017. Wait, what date did I say? September 23rd, 2017. Go back and look at that date. September 23rd, 2017 was the first day of the month. Was the first day of the 7th month. September 23rd, 2017. The first day of the 7th month. A lot of people thought the end of the world was coming. If you remember that, you remember all that? September 23rd, 2017, a lot of people was talking about the end of the world coming. This is the end of the world, it's all over. And you know, that wasn't right. But what did happen on September 23rd, 2017 was the blowing of trumpets. The last day before the final day of atonement, which happened 10 years later on 2027. 10th day of the month, 7th month, 2027. That's the last Jubilee. All debts are forgiven. What's going to happen then? What's going to happen? The 144,000 are going to be sealed. The people that are with them are going to be sealed in the spirit, just like the apostles were sealed in the early rain. It's the latter rain. The latter rain. Okay? Then what happened? What happened after that? If you recall, Revelation said the two witnesses, which are the tables of the covenant, which are represented in the message of righteousness by faith. The message of righteousness by faith represents the two witnesses, brothers and sisters, because they represent perfect obedience, perfect harmony to the two tables of the covenant. Okay, I know that might be a little deep for